Hey there, I'm Tracy Spears, speaker, author, coach, head cheerleader for anybody trying to play bigger. And this week, I cannot even tell you how excited I am to introduce my guest, Cindy Bristow. Before I let Cindy come in, she's way too humble to talk about herself. So I'm going to just give you a couple of highlights from the 4-page resume she sent me. So here we go. I'm going to go all the way back to assistant softball coach. How about that? At Arizona State University. But you played in the Women's Professional Softball League before that, owned and operated Southern California Softball Recruiting Service, then were the head softball coach New Mexico State University. I met you when you were the head coach of Wichita State University. We're going to talk about that. But I really got to know you when you were the national director of Junior Olympic Softball for the Amateur Softball Association. I hope we spend a little bit of time there today. And let's just kind of from there, director of national teams and coaching development, Amateur Softball Association, director of softball operations, head coach Women's Pro Softball League. I was so proud of you, by the way, when that happened. And in 2001, I'm going to just pause here, inducted into the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association Hall of Fame. What? And then director of development, International Softball Federation. There's way too much. Co-owner of Softball Excellence for many years. I want to talk about that. And listen, right now, sitting, you are the assistant softball coach at the University of California at Riverside. So I think that all of our time is up, but come on in, Cindy Bristow. I'm so excited you're here.
I know. I'm so excited. When you called me or emailed me or whatever you did, I was like, yes, I'm in. Let's just talk. It doesn't even have to be a podcast.
Okay,
but
good.
Other people being invited makes it even cooler.
Well, listen, so you are the only person I do not have specific kind of questions and all that, because I know you well enough to know we're going to go in a ton of different directions today. And I didn't want to be limiting in any way, but I don't think people, I mean, when I read that resume that you have, first of all, just well done, friend. That's an amazing body of work you put together. How do you feel listening to all that?
Well, yeah. I'm old enough now. I'm like, yeah, I guess I did do those things. But it's also something, it's funny, Spears. And I got to tell you, I don't know, other people are listening. I had to ask if it was okay to call you Spears, but it's the only thing I've ever called you. So I got to call you Spears now.
I love it.
And so, like, everybody always says, oh, you got to have goals. What's your 5-year goal and your 10-year goal? And I'm like, hell, I couldn't have put goals down because none of these jobs I had existed. I would never have even dreamed that big. How could I have had goals? So it's amazing. I don't know. It seems like it's something to somebody else. It's funny when you read a resume like that. My mom goes, oh, honey, I'm so proud. My brother goes, damn, it sounds like you can't keep a job. And, both of them are pretty right.
Well, I will tell you, I just read something before I got on this call with you. So I'm a big goal setter. I'm, begin with the end in mind, hole up once a year for a couple of days.
I can see that. Yeah.
All the things. And I read an article about a guy he was on that track as a goal setter, and he's now writing a book about how the happiest people he's ever met. He's been in corporate America forever. I should pitch his name, but I can't remember it. But the happiest people he's ever met are the people that didn't set goals. And I was like, what? I was like, that can't be right.
And who are those people?
But he made a compelling argument. He said that a lot of times that goals serve as this moment for you to feel shameful, or that I'm not living up to my expectation. And he said, so he believes that happiness is doing life like Cindy Bristow is doing life.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean, like, I think we're both so similar because we're really achievers. Like, whatever I'm doing, man, I'm gonna do it. And I want to outdo you doing it. I'm gonna do it. So not having a goal doesn't mean, oh, I'm like just like piecing through life. I have a brother that's taken that approach, and the end is rough. So if you're out there listening, try to get off that train as fast as you can. But, so I would say my goals are more right in front of me, but the vision I just let be out there.
I love that. Well, you have been, and I'm going to try to get through this podcast without crying, and because like when I look back on my life and those, so this is called shift out loud, those shifts that happen, you shifted me in a way as a very young person that, I mean, I'm not here today without you, Cindy, true, straight up,
Oh, really?
for sure.
Oh,
And
wow.
when we first met, like I was really like a buoy, man. I was like, I'm
Right. I would, yeah, you were, yeah,
yeah,
floating around. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
But
was.
it doesn't, it takes a while to figure out like, what is it that are my skills and where are they going to go? Right. I mean, you've definitely figured that out, but it takes a while.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go back to you. So like when you knew shift out loud and some of the shifts that have happened as you look back, what are some what like what's the first big shift you're like, man, that was a game changer for me?
Well, the first one that I totally changed lanes on was all I ever wanted to do was coach. So I'm zipping along in my coaching career. It's going like a rocket. And I said, no, I'm going to jump off that train and I'm going to go work at the ASA. It was a personal decision, not a logical decision. It turned out to work out okay. And it and the invisible part of the resume is there were quite a few of those throughout the life. But it just took me in a different direction and I just make whatever I'm doing work.
Now listen, ASA for the audience is the Amateur Softball
Oh,
Association,
yes, yes, yes.
headquartered in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So let's give a shout out to that. And when you
Yeah.
say you just like kind of took that job, that was a big job.
Oh, yeah, it had never been created. Like I went from coaching college softball, recruiting kids who play youth softball to the next day, I am in charge of all the youth softball in the United States. I didn't even know what that meant. And I remember they gave me a desk, and on the desk was this, like, one of these little notepads, and it had this to-do list. And the first thing was write a newsletter. And I'm like, what am I going to write about? And who am I going to send it to? I can remember that. Like, I literally had no idea how to do my job or what my job was.
Oh my
And
God.
then I figured it out, but it took me a while.
Your job in that, and which is how we met. I mean, I knew you from afar as a player. I was at OU and a little bit before your Wichita State. When we don't age us. That doesn't
Yeah, I
matter.
know.
So, but you were tasked with creating a curriculum that would teach junior Olympic coaches all across the United States how to teach kids how to play softball and create a program that would be used in other countries to grow their softball presence because you were trying to get softball in the Olympics. This is a big fucking job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know it at the time. I thought they were trying to get me out of the office, which was successful. I was out all the time, but I loved it. It was like coaching and teaching. And that's where I hooked people I knew, like you. Let's go teach. And not everybody was good at public speaking, which I didn't find hard. I could, but come to find out, not everyone felt that way. So I just threw a bunch of my friends in front of a bunch of strangers and thought it was cool and realized not everyone did.
Okay, so that was very kind because I'm going to fill in the gap there with the audience. And this is the big shift for me. So you take me to the first clinic. It's Washington, D.C., if I remember correctly. We walk in, there's 250 enthusiastic junior Olympic coaches, which are mostly parents trying to coach their kids. And you're up there with the microphone, like you were just crushing it. I was like, she's really good with a microphone. And I'm sitting over on the side because I think I'm going to be the athlete. I'm going to do all the demonstration for you because there was no pregame, Bristow. Like you
Right.
didn't tell me what was
Yeah,
happening.
no, I sucked at teaching back then.
Yeah. So you like, and then the microphone, I remember even had like one of those big long wires on it. And so you go, so I'd like to introduce the other clinician, Tracy Spears. And I was like, I like stand up, like, yeah, okay, yeah, here I am. Then I sit back down. You're like, why don't you come on up and say a few words? And I don't know if you remember, but I literally had a gastric event and I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna talk to anybody. And you like go, no, Spears, come on up here. And I was like, yeah, no,
No, no, no.
it's
I'm
not
good.
happening. And then you go, okay, well, let's go ahead and take a break. And I'm gonna go talk to Tracy. I'll be right back. And you come over, like you blasted me, rightly so. But there was never a conversation about can I
Oh,
speak
wow.
in public? And
Oh, wow.
that was a hard no. And so like like the whole weekend and you were exhausted because you had to talk, you had to carry the entire show. I was nothing. And at the end of it, we have to get on a plane together. And you probably don't remember this, but I'll never forget it my whole life. I get on the plane and you had already booked me for the next couple of, weekends because, you overestimated
Because
my
you're Tracy Spears, man. You got to be able to rock this.
and when we get off the plane, you're like, oh yeah, just so you know, I've already bought your plane ticket for next weekend, but don't think for a minute that you're going to show up and sit on the sidelines like you did here. I'm exhausted. You better get your shit together. Like you just like let me have it, and which is so
Really?
not you.
No, it's not me.
Well, you were
But you
exhausted,
probably needed that though, right? Because you needed a week to get it together. Because you could get
girl.
it together.
Girl, I went to the library. I
Oh,
checked
wow.
out Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, wow.
Swear to you. And like all week, I just fretted and just, can I do it? Can I do it? And okay, this is about you. So I don't want to make it more about me, but I said, this part is about you. You never wavered with me though. And you said it even now because you're Tracy Spears. You can do it. Like I didn't know I could
Yeah.
do it, but the pivot for me and the shift for me, and it is in my new book, by the way, that I'm writing, and you are a piece of that, is the confidence I gained by standing next to you for those 6 or 7 years. I mean, watching I think you are the best trainer speaker I've ever seen. And the way you hold an audience and balance that with the material, you're just amazing. So that's my giant.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. Thank you. No, wow. Hmm. Thank you.
You're
That kind of
welcome. Thank you.
stopped me short there. It was a really infantile time in that of people I felt had it. Isn't that true though? It's you see something in someone they don't see in themselves, and it has to be yanked out because if given, very few people are brave enough to just do that themselves.
That's
And mine was I followed Bobby Simpson. So when he suddenly couldn't go one weekend, and I was like you, I'm like, playing assistant coach, like, hey, you're doing great. Do you need a snack? How's your water? Right. And I'm like, okay, I'll do the pitching thing and then I'll slide back into, oblivion here. And then the thing was when he suddenly couldn't go one weekend, and now I have to do it. And when I tried to do it exactly like Bobby, I was horrible. So my lesson that I learned was I had to take the concept and make it fit me. I couldn't tell those cute little Southern jokes that fit Bobby, but they didn't fit me. Like I had to be me. And once I gave myself permission to be me, then it was, oh, I was comfortable and it was okay. And people like still seemed they didn't run out. So then we were okay. But Kirk Walker, now assistant coach at UCLA. I mean, he started in the whole thing. We all started down there. Like we were all in the same thing together.
He's going to be a guest. He's agreed to be a guest.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. I should have had you all together, and maybe we'll do that. Yeah, and I want to offer this. Like, I think when you were saying you did it your own style and all of that, like there were always a couple hundred people in the audience. That is a big audience. It is, and it was every single weekend for all of those years. And the balance of the audience experience with the material that you provided, my favorite thing was, and for those of you that are listening that have kids that have played softball or playing sports, like you did this beautiful thing where you'd pull the guy, sorry guys, out of the audience that was the guy. He
Yeah.
had it
He
going
was
on.
cool.
He's now teaching a 10-year-old how to throw a softball. And I just remember the first time I watched it happen, you're like, oh yeah, that's great. He's throwing a little bit. Yeah, okay. And now they have to do everything the entire weekend with their non-dominant hand. And it was the most epic transition from I got this to holy shit
Yeah.
moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. To humble. Now, how do you do that again? To humble teacher, right? It was the only way I knew to humble him. Because if you're going to stay right-handed, you're the man in the stands with like kids. Whoa, big guy. But now all of a sudden you're the left-handed dork in the room with a whole bunch of other left-handed dorks. So let's like figure this out.
Yeah,
And it really was helpful.
it was. It was so fun. I could talk about that forever, but let's keep going. So you leave that, and the transition out of that was not easy for you because you had really built such an amazing legacy for the Amateur Softball Association. You have to now be so proud of that stadium and what is going on there. A lot of that happens on your watch, yes?
Well, there was a lot of help. Marita Hines and I, a name from the past, one
Who
of your
is also agreed to be on my podcast.
oh, awesome. Oh my God. So Marita Hines, was she coached you, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Marita Hines is the coach at University of Oklahoma. For those of you not familiar with the state of Oklahoma, which is in Norman, maybe 35, 40 minutes south of Oklahoma City. I'm living in Oklahoma City. We have a stadium in the backyard. We're going to host the World Series. Now, don't think what it is now on national TV. Infantile with everyone in the stands who's volunteered to work and all the teams that are in the tournament that we can like force to stay and watch a game. There maybe were 100 people in the stands. Maybe. Maybe. We now have 14,000 people. We've built a second deck. The place is on national TV going bananas. It's just crazy. And again, no one would have dreamed that, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it was infantile times. It was amazing. It was fun. It was amazing.
I still have some of those tapes that we recorded. You remember how we would have to do all the drills, and
Yeah,
you see the actual field because it was just what you
just the
described.
field.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was just oh my gosh.
But
All
you
right.
know what's wild? Everything starts small. Like we're now in such a um easy sharing world, and everything looks high tech and big time and blown up, and everything started small. When we were doing those coaching schools, Spears, the NBA, I would often pass the Boston Celtics in just a regular airport. Like everybody was flying coats. That crap doesn't happen now. Like everything starts small. It all doesn't start chartered airlines, big time, national TV $1 million contracts. So
Yeah.
we forget that, we want to start there, but things have to grow.
So exactly, and that time you were at the ASA, as you look back on that and all of the relationships you build and all of the things, the legacy that you have there, take me from that to what happens next for you. What's the shift that happens
The
next?
first shift that happened was I stayed within the organization, but the organization kind of morphed because we now have become in 95 an Olympic sport. So I become director of national teams and coaching development. So now I'm found myself in charge of creating the first Olympic team from a country where most people, female athletes, think they deserve to be on the Olympic team. So how are we going to have 100,000 people try out for an Olympic team? So we had to kind of map that out, do all that. That was all under my watch. So here we are doing all that again. And that was wild. But we did, and we won. That was back in the days when we used to win the gold medal. So
Listen, that was such an amazing though time. Like when now you do look and with a lot of pride, I'm sure, and think, man, it'd be fun to be a player now. But back then it was also fun, right? And
yeah,
you
it's
know,
wild.
yeah,
Wild. And I learned a lot about, even though it was sport, it's like the business world. It's all people, it's all relationships, and people have their pet projects and their territories, and you can't just swoop in and say, hey, this is about me and my project, and get, move over. You've got to include people and find ways to be an includer and a collaborator, and that taught me how to do that. And the more I did that, the more projects I was involved with gained traction and went forward. I think that was that time taught me how to be political animal. Because before I just thought, oh, that's a bad word. But all that meant was I didn't know the game. And so I was being taken advantage by the game. Once I learned the game, then I could maneuver the game. And that was way better.
That's right. Yeah. And you're wired for relationships, right?
Yeah.
You're wired. Yeah. I don't know that I know anybody that's more invested in the outcome, how it lands on people than you were. Like, it didn't matter what was happening. What mattered, and you taught me that, was what are people hearing? What are they doing? What are they feeling? And that was just transformative. I mean, I still use that stuff to this day. I stand on stage and talk about don't picture a pink elephant. I stand on stage. I do. I tell some of those, not all of the old jokes, but I tell some of those jokes. I think it would blow your mind how much of that material is so unbelievably relative in the business world even today. You think?
Oh, no. But you know what? People are people, and some of that is still, it's still solid. It'd be cool to hear it now, though. Yeah.
I think you have forgotten all the stuff.
Yeah, I think I have. It's because when I finish stuff, I just click it off. Like, I'll read old things I write, articles I write, or books I write. I'm like, dang, I wrote that. That was pretty good.
You're
right.
Really
you probably
good.
Feel like that too.
Well, you're really good at it, and you were good to, after that first couple of terrible things, to script that out and create, that's a whole different skill set, right? To also create the structure. So I have always thought of you as a visionary, thinking about the bigger picture, but you also were able to, integrate and bring in you did bring in a lot of great people. So you and Marita, I know, became very instrumental in all that's happening. But let's move on. All right. So what's the next shift?
All right.
What's the next
shift? You gotta watch the clock, because the clock's gonna blow up on us.
No, it's not. Listen, even if people are not listening anymore, it doesn't matter. I'm loving it.
Yeah. It's about us. It doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to ask you where you're sitting in the beginning, but as you saw,
I'm in my office.
But where are you? Because I want people to know where everybody's sitting.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm in Riverside, California, which is in Southern California. I'm on the campus of the University of California, Riverside.
And so when do you want to talk about that? You want to wait? Let's not go chronologically. What are you doing in Riverside?
Okay. So at an age when most of my peers are retiring, Cindy decides to uproot her whole life, blow it up into smithereens yet again, and move. Because at the time I decided to hit the detonator, I am in Florida. And I decide, boom, time to get out, peace out of my life. My mom is very healthy, but she was currently like 90 at the time. And she still lives in the house I grew up in. So the assistant
job. The house you grew up in?
Yeah, the house I grew up in. I live in my brother's room right now. My life has really expanded into just like, we could have left that out. You might edit that out of the thing. So
no, I'm not editing. If you can call me Spears, we're keeping that in.
So the pitching coach, which my specialty is pitching, coach at University of California, Riverside opens. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. And especially considering I was jumping on the detonator, that was very cool. So off I go to Riverside to decide, hey, I'm going to live with my mom. She's healthy, but here she is 90. I didn't realize how lonely she was. She's a conversationalist like me with no one to converse with. So I live with my mom, and I drive 20 minutes to work, and it's fantastic.
Oh my God. Your mom, I should do a podcast with her. She's amazing.
My mom is a rock star. She's now 94. She has no dementia at all. She can remember everything. Physically, bugs her because she can't move around like she used to. She can't drive across country by herself like she used to. As recently as 5 years ago, that's what makes her the maddest, in her 4-door pickup truck. So that's what makes her the maddest.
I saw, I don't know if it was a tweet or whatever, where she was 89 and driving from California to Florida.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But by herself.
by herself. Yeah, by herself. No radio. She's like, she'll call on her little flip phone, right? And go, oh, wildlife report for today. I saw a goat, 2 cows, and some other kind of thing. I want to say a bear, but that's probably unlikely. But something like that. Like, because she doesn't drive on the freeway, right? She's like cruising on some 2-lane road. Like, it's awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that. So that takes a while. That's a long.
Oh, and when you're retired, you have a while.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
she would drive from Southern Cal, like up all over to my sister in Cincinnati, and then all over, and then down to me, and then all over. And suddenly she became obsessed with covered bridges. Like, I don't know where that came from, but that was something for her to do. And they're down, like, really, these things are 200 years old, and they aren't built on a freeway. They're down some like derelict road that might be paved, and she doesn't have GPS. So my retired sister's on the phone. You're going to go down to I don't know, the Gun and Knife Club and turn left, and then you're gonna watch for the covered bridge. It's crazy.
there's the Elks Lodge on the right.
Yes, exactly. Bubba's gun shop's over here, and yeah, that's it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So you get this wanderlust from mom. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
You have to be the best traveler, still to this day, I have ever traveled with. My wife takes a close second, I'm going to say, but
Okay.
you definitely, I just remember getting super cranky about a couple of the delays. I didn't, I had never flown like that, because we were driving around in vans, and our softball team was literally, I drove one of the vans, like, that's how we
Right.
got to our games. But when we were flying to all these places, like I didn't have a lot of experience. And I remember one time we were in Chicago. You know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah.
Most epic travel day. And I've had many since, but it was the first time it ever happened. But we're in Chicago trying to get to someplace in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember this? And the reason that that's important is that you always said, don't fly with me in case one of us can't get there. And here I am showing up at the airport on your flight. And so I was already like, oh no, I'm barely holding on to this. I'm barely hanging on to this job anyway. And now I forgot to see if she's on this flight because we both flew out of Oklahoma City, and it's all good. We're in Chicago. We're there in plenty of time. It's like an early flight. And without going into too much detail, we board 4 or 5 planes. And at the very last one we get on, and we're like white knuckling it because we're like, this is it. If it doesn't go out now. So this starts at like 11 in the morning, if I remember, and it's now 11 at night. And we've been moving from gate to gate in the Chicago. And you, of course, are holding court and have all these new friends. I am like, oh my God, I should have taken another flight. Oh my God, I should have taken.
I know if I left now, I could jog and get there. I know it.
And so then we get on the last plane, and that we sit on the runway forever and ever and ever. And then as we start to take off, the plane does not take off, and it goes off to the side, and the pilot says, I just don't think we have enough fuel to get over that lake. Do you remember that? And I was like, oh, and we didn't make it. And so the next morning, and you handled it all perfectly. Like, I know you had to be so stressed, but you were like, well, I'd rather be here than be in the middle of the lake. Like, it never, so are you still like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I would rather be here than in the middle of the lake. Like, if he doesn't think we're getting across, yeah. Yeah. I might right now go, why are you figuring that out now, dude? But I'm, yeah. But underneath it, you're still kind of, okay, now how can we plan for this? Can we call them? What are we going to, that kind of stuff. But yeah.
I'm sure that was all happening, but I didn't know. I was just in my own world thinking about myself only. Like, I can't believe this happened. But when we landed, do you remember? So we land and they take us to the clinic, and I'll know, and we pull up, and I don't know how many hundreds of people there are there, and they're all hovered around a TV. How big was that TV? Couldn't have been bigger than my computer screen right now.
Right.
And they're watching the videotapes that we've done, that were being sold Do you remember that? Like, so,
Yeah, it seemed like we were rock stars. We're just a couple of losers that can't even make it to the town in time.
oh my gosh. But you just never miss a beat. You're like, okay, had a little ish in Chicago. Let's get this party going. And bam, and everybody was just hanging on your every word. Oh,
I think you're romanticizing all
I
that, but
am
okay.
I am not like that is my memory of that. Listen, I have so many and so I went chronologically out of order, which just because I wanted to know where you were sitting. But when you ended up in Florida, like what did you think? That was a huge shift for
Oh
you.
yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah. So you know how I'm wired. I'm wired to help people, period. I help them the most through softball, but it's mostly to help people. And I go into business. And I just for 17, 18 years, I was in business, and it was the most un-me thing I've done in my life
Mm,
because I now had to put a value on my help. And I've never had to do that. And I didn't know how to do that. And I was ill-equipped to do that. And I'm fine with being at the bottom and learning, but I didn't have a patient teacher. My business partner wasn't patient, was a master's in business, and we should know. And finally, like, this is business 101. And finally, I had to say, never took the class. I don't know business 101 or 100 or 099 or any of them. Like, but want to throw a rise ball. And so, so maybe you could just teach me because clearly I don't know because I've screwed it up now how many times? And so it was not only difficult for me, but it was not me. It was trying to fit something in me that didn't fit.
yeah. In
Now
re
we were successful and we really threw out some helpful products and stuff, but I always felt I was having to then ask you to pay for my help just wasn't something I was used to.
yeah. Well, monetizing for a creative like you are is always tricky and hard. And the hope is that you're not having to do both of those things, be it
Yeah,
the creative
yeah.
piece and also mining. Like I can tell you for me, I have somebody else negotiate all of the contracts because I'd be like, oh yeah, yeah, no, I'm free that day. I can just do it. Like, what's your budget? Okay, I'll do that. And yet the monetizing piece of that is incredibly important because it kind of directs where your time is going to be spent and all that.
Right, right. And if you're gonna keep doing this or go look for work,
That's right.
and yet you're way more in that lane than I am, but still it's a and I would wrestle with my self-worth. Does it just mean that I can't like value my own worth? And I'm like, oh, God, let's get out of that. Like just wasn't me.
Yeah. Do you
But
think?
it taught me a lot, Trace. It really taught me a lot. Like I felt now that you're mentioning all this stuff about public speaking, it really was helpful for me. To go back to not just beginners class, but total novice class. Because as we go on in our lives, we tend to shed those things we don't do well at all. And we avoid novice class. I took a scuba diving class once, not it was given as a gift. I don't even like being on top of the water. Underneath it, trying to breathe is like a no. No. And now I'm in this damn class and I hate it. And I never have felt so bad at stuff. Like I was so bad. And it was so good for me to feel so bad and feel the anxiety of it because I could relate to the players I was dealing with so much better. And I think we all have people in the workplace that don't want to be at the front of the line. Like it gives them anxiety. So they're always trying to find the back of the line or, they don't want to raise their hand. They don't want to be seen in the room. They don't even pull their chair up to the table. Maybe they're sitting around the perimeter. But if we're not that person and we're comfy leading the discussion, we can't relate to them. So we need to find that thing that makes our heart go. And to
Yeah,
me, it was scuba diving in business.
I hate scuba diving and like I'm a hard no. I'm good for you. I'm glad you even did it. I wouldn't even do it. Like The just water
Oh,
scares me
that's
anyway.
a whole different podcast. It was the most dreadful thing. It's not like bowling where if you suck, you just get a bad score. Maybe you throw your ball in their lane. If you suck at this, you could die. So it really has a bad downside to it. And I was not, oh my God. The night
Oh,
I almost didn't bring my swimsuit because I realized, oh wait, we have to hurry up, get to the Y, put this like wetsuit on and go. I didn't even need my swimsuit. I can't even find it. Was the night we had the swim test.
oh,
Thank God I brought it. I didn't bring mine. I brought Robin's. It's too big. I dive in the pool. It's down at my ankles. And now I have to keep going in. And now the idiot in the class doesn't even have her suit on. It was so horrible. I was nothing but the worst person in the class, the entire class.
oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
can
But it
totally
was very good for me to know what that person feels like. It helped me better relate to that person.
see, that's you. You're just finding the silver lining. I would be like, I will never be in this situation again. Because if I'm not any good at it, I'm not doing it.
That's right.
Straight up not doing it. Like if I'm even like, I might be more, I might be no, I'll sit that one out. So
And that's how most of us are, especially later in life. The
yeah.
stuff we aren't good at has been dumped a long time ago. So as we go up chains in our company or whatever we do, it's harder for us to relate to anybody starting out.
So this is a tough question I'm going to ask you, and you can say pass, you can play or pass.
Oh, okay.
So do you, and we don't get do-overs, and I know you're going to say, I have no regrets, but watching what's happened in softball over the last 20 years, is there any part of you that wishes you would have not gone in the business piece and stayed on the field a little bit more?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'll play this one. Yeah.
Okay.
I would probably be close to retiring right now at a very high six-figure income.
Oh, or way higher. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna say, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know if you're
because I
checking.
know how I'm wired. Like the thing I fight about with myself is the competitor in me is not helpful to the teacher in me. The teacher in me has to be compassionate. The competitor in me wants to go through your nose and rip your heart out. That part doesn't work to be the teacher. So as I was churning along as a coach, the competitor in me would have kept winning and kept going. And I would be, yeah.
No question. And I think your ability to create, um, let me see what the word would be. Like I just watched you create this environment, this ecosystem, if you will, that everybody felt seen and valued. And even when you're saying get your shit together or I'm firing you, I still felt like you cared about me and you still thought I was going to be great. Like I know I don't remember ever thinking anything other than I don't want to disappoint you. Like there was never anything in me that made that about anything other than whatever happens, I want Cindy to be, like, see, I was right. Like, you can do it. Like, I didn't want to disappoint you. And I think that's what
Mm.
great coaches have, this ability to create that environment, that ecosystem, if you will, where everybody feels that no matter how bad, good day, bad day, that you still care deeply about just them being on the field. And I know that's your superpower.
Oh, thank you. It's funny you mentioned that because right now, yeah, I try to make that. Because we're coaching people, whether we're in a boardroom, whatever you're out there listening, it's people that you're dealing with, and people don't wake up to suck. It's not like, you know what, I wanted to suck yesterday and I was thinking about doing it tomorrow, but nope, damn it, today's the day I'm going to suck. No one does that. And so if that's happening, something else is going on and you're supposed to be the professional and the expert, so help me unsuck, right? Don't just sit there and get mad at me because I'm sucking, because if you're mad, imagine how mad I am. I'm the one doing it. So I think we have to reach out and like throw a lifeline, throw a compassion line.
Well
We
said.
have a lot of freshmen right now in the bullpen. You might have a lot of young people at work. They're great people. Find a way to relate to them. Be vulnerable. I think we can open up and say, Like, I can't remember anybody's name. One of my freshmen came in and I call her Brookie and she goes, Coach, I think you call me Brookie because Becky's closest to me. And I think you think I'm Becky. I go, no, I just can't remember your name. It's thank you for trying to make it seem like something it's not, but I wish it was that, but I can't remember your name. And she's like, oh, I tried, Coach. I go, I know it's a malfunction.
That's
But I
hilarious.
think they like that because it makes us human, right? For the times that they're like are trying to be superhuman to please us. Because that need to please spirits can get really high and can drive you to the wrong way if we don't watch that.
Uh, I know that. And there's a lot of people listening that are struggling with that right now. I think that, trying to figure out, that's a shift I hope people get. There's been a couple of episodes this season already where they have really reacted to that, that moment where they're like, oh, hey, wait a minute, my needs are important too. Oh, hey, wait a minute, like, and to balance that. Um, this is a question I've been wondering and I've been wanting to ask you for the last couple of years. I'll ask you in this context when you were talking about the freshmen. What's the biggest difference you're seeing in the athletes now, in the seat that you sit in the time of your life you're in, and when you were back, let's say in the beginning of your coaching career? What do you notice is the biggest difference?
They know the game in pieces because they've been taught it by drills and by lessons. So when you played, dad was out there hitting balls. You knew the game in its totality. And so maybe your strength and speed wasn't as good as some of the kids now because you didn't have a street strength and speed coach. We didn't know diet and weight training like they do now, but you knew the game in its totality because if you did any piece, it was just to insert it into the hole. Now they only know the pieces, they don't know the whole.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is not at
And
all
harmful.
what I thought you were going to say. I love that.
Oh, what did you think?
Well, I wondered about the work ethic, the difference between that. I wondered about the commitment. Is it the same? Is it different? I wondered about the aspirations would be different because now they can play in the Olympics. So I don't know. That's what I thought.
I think, I think the ones that want to be good still want to be good. Like, um, who doesn't want to go play on national TV and have an NIL deal of like 50 or 100,000 bucks, right? But the answer might be not everybody. But those that want to will still work really hard to do that. What I think what I noticed with pitchers is because they're so taught in lessons, people who teach kids teach them critically. You need to do this. You're not doing that right. You're not doing that right. You're not doing that right. And the players adopt that toxic self-talk. So they talk that way to themselves. And so they don't know how to
Mm,
tell themselves anything they're doing well.
interesting. Oh,
I don't know that we were tougher. I think we were just taught to go figure it out. And there's such power in figuring it out because then you own the solution. If you tell me the solution, you own it. I don't own it. You own it. And they know they don't own the solution. So they feel like faults out there.
interesting. That's interesting. I want to unpack that more. I do think one of the things you would say in those clinics that I do say is, you can't use the word don't because your brain can't process it. Are you still using all that stuff that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll tell themselves, like I've gone to like, what is it you are doing that made the ball go there? Like a ball is just like drop it. It just sits on the ground until you do something to it. So anything you're doing to the ball, it may not be what's making you happy, but it's what you're telling it to do. So learn what it is you're telling it to do, and then you can learn to tell it to do what you mean,
Mm. Ooh, that's good.
right? So you have the power. You always have the power. You're just not realizing it and not using for good right now.
Yeah.
But they'll do things like they'll animate the ball. It keeps going high. I go, no, you're it.
Nice.
It just drops on the ground and lays there until you do something. You are it.
Ooh, I love that. That's good. Oh my
Think
God.
about watch, just listen as people go, it's not right. You're it, dude.
I love that. That's a nice reframe. Yeah, I love that. I'm digging that. Do you think that the athletes now, they definitely are stronger and in better shape and all that stuff than we were? I know that for sure. But do you think that they're mentally stronger than we were, or do you think that there's a grit that came? I'm like leading you with the way I'm even asking the question. I don't mean
Right.
I don't mean to, but like, I mean, is there generationally a grit that happens when you are owning all of that and you do have to have more, or do you?
I think they could be, but like, God almighty, I look back and I'm like, so I'm surprised any of us like lived to adulthood. We didn't have to wear seatbelts. We didn't have to wear helmets. Our Mr. Hankins across the street, he attached a rope to the back of his motorcycle and hauled us on skateboards with the little wheels around the cul-de-sac. And anybody who wasn't flung off into like the fire hydrant was a hero. And we'd get back on and do it again. And later than he'd go to jail now probably. And I'm like, so you learn how to like, your environment teaches you to maybe have the grit and to toughen up and to get back up. We slid on the asphalt like into the sewer at second base, right? I
Yeah,
don't know if it was the wisest environment, but it's not that we were wired better, Spears. Our environment was grittier.
for sure.
So we were grittier, but we weren't wired any different.
I got you.
I don't think you and I were driven to every single practice and class and picked up and driven home.
What?
Were you?
Is that
Were
happening?
you?
No.
Oh, God, it happens all the time. Like, you know, you're in a school zone when it looks like the line is 3 miles long. Like, these kids don't walk anywhere. They're picked up, taken to a practice, taken to class, taken to school, picked up from school, taken to another practice. And it's constant, and they don't walk anywhere.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So they're grit capable kids put in a non-grit environment.
that's fair. That's fair. That's interesting. And when I look back on all those times, those gritty lessons were the ones that actually were my favorite ones, right? The uh the worst ever. I was a freshman. Marita Hines is looking. I'm out at shortstop because Kelly Geiger must have been late because I was did not starting shortstop, and so I yawn, and she says, looks out there and says, "Oh, Spears, are you tired?" And I don't know, I know you know how naive I was anyway at 18, and I go, "Well, kinda."
A little bit, yeah.
A
Now
little,
that you mentioned it.
yeah. And he's like, "Well, I mean, did you not get enough sleep?" Like, she's acting incredibly caring, I think. I'm like, "Oh, I love this." Well, I mean, I start kind of answering the question, and she's like, "Well, come on over here," and she puts me over on the bench, and she's like, "Why don't you sit down and rest for a little bit?" And at the moment that she's calling me to her, I'm like, "Oh, I can't believe I've answered any of these. Coach, I feel really good right now. I'm not tired. No, 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 come on." So she then gathers the whole team and says, "Hey, everybody, Spears is tired. So, I mean, we're a team, and so let's pull together and be a team. Why don't all of you go ahead and run the 3 miles for her?" And literally made me sit there and watch them run around that giant Reeves field. It was like the worst day of my life
Yeah.
at that moment.
So now the environment at public schools is you can't really do that because it's kind of shaming and stuff. But
I haven't been tired since. Like,
yeah, right, exactly. Okay. So this year, in the past, our players have just, well, you're talking, right? So
yeah,
clearly they've never talked in front of a group to ever do that. So this year we said, look, we're not going to do that. You're not going to do it in a class. We're not going to do it here. It's been really hard for them because the other thing that they're not used to, they're capable of following the rules just like we were, but
for
our rules were rules. They were like hard. We tried to violate them and we found out, oh, that's a rule. So these guys are not used to real rules being rules at home or wherever they are. So a yawn that we're told not to yawn isn't really a no, is not really a no. Now they're finding it's a no, and then they're going to try and whine out of a no into a yes. So they aren't any different. Their environment around them has allowed them to kind of churn out
fair.
different.
That's fair. What's the next shift for you?
I don't know. I never know what it's going to be. I'm always open though, because I'm really curious. I don't get bored. I get curious. I develop things. That recruiting's been interesting to me because I wasn't prepared for it. So I dive in and I don't find the shortcuts, but I find the essence. I like to boil things down. What are the kernels? How do we really need to do this? What are the essentials we need to be good at? And then we don't have all the money in the flash, but I can be the first one at the field and the last one at the field. And how can we start to really make some progress in this? And we're doing really great in that. So I love finding out the process of things. I don't know. I can't imagine retiring because I don't have a passion to retire to.
Yeah. Well, you have too much to offer whatever you decide to do. Do you
Thanks.
see going somewhere and being a head coach at some point again?
Yeah,
Or
I don't,
you,
as long as my mom's around, I don't have that desire. I'm fine being an assistant. It is odd. I'm an assistant to someone who I'm older than her mother. So that's a shit, right? I mean, and she's fantastic. Nikki
yeah,
Palmer, she's fantastic. We work well together, but I sometimes have to remember my experience can bubble up and I need to tamp it down and not be the one with the answer.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's helpful again to me because I have a couple players who they're the ones that need to not always have the answer. So I can help them there.
Interesting. So I get that. Let's just play out a couple of things. You know, 10 years go by or whatever. Are you still in California? Is that do you stay there?
Well, my family's here, so that I've really loved being around. My brother and his kids are just up the road. My one of my sisters is up the road. Um, so I really enjoy being around my nieces, my family, and all that. I've not had that in years, and I'm talking 30 years. So I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sad. That makes me sad you haven't had that because I know how important that is to you.
And well, I found it with my sister in Cincinnati where I would always go up there and help with those kids. So, yes, that I find a way to insert myself in their life because I can be that guiding aunt that can set some boundaries and talk in a way to them that their parents aren't talking to them.
Gotcha. All right. So this is a silly question that, I haven't asked anybody, but I want to ask you, what's like when you look back, what I want to ask you two silly questions, but like
Okay.
when you look back, what's been like the greatest joy for you? Like as you look back, like all those things that you've done. When I read kind of that resume, what are the few things that you're like, that was an amazing time?
My international time was fabulous. Because I got to realize how precious it is to just have be blessed being born here. I had nothing to do with it. I would go to countries that had no money. I'd go into the poorest place in, I don't know, any name a country. And I would be spending someone else's money on these people, but they would look at me because I'm from the best softball planet on the country. I'm an American. I'm white. I'm a lot of things that I are out of my control. And I would try and diffuse that right away. These are out of my control. Um, but it was really gratifying to see how proud people are of wherever they're from and whatever they have. And I absolutely loved it. Like
Nice.
the things I saw that I never thought I would see. I didn't aspire to travel all over. I just was fortunate to. And everyone would say, oh, let me carry your luggage. And you're doing a lot of work. You're doing a lot of work. And they don't want to do the work. They just want to go to the glamour spots. And I loved it. The people, everybody's proud of where they're from, even if where they're from is a cardboard box in the middle of a war zone.
Mm, mm, mm. Well, I remember when going over and playing, and I believe we were in Taiwan, and it did sound glamorous and all of that, and I couldn't wait. But the amount of service work we did, as you did, like showing up at the elementary schools and being there at recess, and you know, and yet that was the best part of the trip. It actually wasn't being on the field, though that was amazing too, but it was seeing that, I had never been exposed to that either. And you do leave there feeling very grateful for sure,
Don't
right?
you?
Oh,
Right. I
yeah.
mean, and you're handing someone a blanket and they're just so grateful and kind, and suddenly there's a connection. There isn't a language difference, there isn't a cultural difference. It's a kind person being kind to another kind person. And selfishly, I'm glad I got to go back to a very affluent country, but it's not like, wow, I did something to be born here. It's like, but for the grace of God, I could have been in the slum in Delhi. And you have to remember that doesn't make me better because I wasn't, and it doesn't make them worse because they were.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one to end on. Listen, whatever is next for you, I
Damn, we're done.
I want to be part of it, and we don't have to be done. We'll be done with the audience, so we'll let them off here. Listen, and I meant this in the beginning. Um, I'm so grateful
Oh,
that you
geez.
were part of my journey, and I just can't imagine that I end up in the career I end up in, standing on stages, because I would have never, ever, I don't think, taken a microphone on my own. And I definitely wouldn't have done it over and over as bad as I was had you not been cheering me on the whole way. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. Can I give you a compliment before you hit the stop button?
Sure. Yeah, we can go a little longer.
Okay. So, yes, here you go. So, I do appreciate that.
Of
But
course.
the thing that you've always done for me is you have always seemed so confident and so secure. And I haven't felt that. I can just pretend that, but I haven't felt that. And to go do a new thing, I feel super scared and nervous unless it's all like mapped out. And I would often imagine your certainty, because you give a big strong vibe of certainty and strength, and I've kept that in my head at a lot of times when I felt my weakest wobble of belief. And it might look strong on the outside, but it only matters what it feels on the inside. And I felt your strength on the inside. You have a very strong, like, gamma ray of strength that you cast out to people. And I've needed that through my years.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Do you remember when we would teach Pygmalion in the classroom? Okay.
Yeah.
And for people listening, Pygmalion in the classroom is that the energy that you put out, how you feel about yourself, other people will take on that feeling about you, and then they will treat you like that, which reinforces that thought that you have. In one of those clinics, I remember you talking about Pygmalion in the classroom, which was, where teachers were treating kids differently, and that they thought they were super smart and they weren't smart. That there was something about this story where I went, oh, it starts with me. I have to be. I'm not trying to compliment myself. I'm trying to compliment you. I have to. I was listening intently to that whole Pygmalion in the classroom thing. That was transformative. So I didn't do that. I didn't come out of the box like that. Like that was learned. But thank you.
No, you come out of it strong. You just are also a good noticer.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, you're welcome.
Since nobody's listening, I just want.
No, it's just us spares throwing compliments out.
That's right. Here, yeah, we're just gonna pat each other on the back. Now, listen. So if people want to reach out to you, they can find you. You see Riverside softball where you are. All right. Well, listen, I love you. I appreciate you.
I love you to death.
Likewise.
This was joy. I look forward to this all week.
Nice. Me too. Thank you.
I love you.